ones working together to make multiple marriages recognisable in the benefit system. I think that's a mistake as well. I do not think we can change our legal system, change our benefit system to reflect the cultures of other countries. I think the benefit system as well as the law has to treat every individual in the same way. And if we have one benefit rule for some and another for other people, then it undermines confidence in the whole system, and it's just plain wrong.
So contrary to what you said a moment ago, the government is having one law for one group of people and another for another.
I mean, it's difficult. I have to say I didn't see those newspaper reports, and I would obviously have to look at the detail of what was being proposed. But what I said at the beginning stands. I think that you can be sensitive to other cultures, and I made a reference to the way in which the mortgage system operates, and that's right and proper in my view, and that's what makes this country a great country, that we are tolerant and we are a country that does have a long tradition of tolerance and mutual respect. But there is a line over which you shouldn't go, and I think that's what we're discussing tonight. And in some ways, maybe Rowan Williams' comments help, actually, David, in that we can. It is a nice moment, actually, in some ways, when people say it gives us the opportunity as politicians to say clearly what we all believe, and that, in many ways, reasserts to the public that there is common values that all of us hold.
Okay, you, sir.
I think the Archbishop would be better employed to do the role that he's called to do, and that's to preach the gospel of salvation through Christ, not to move into other areas of which he should have no say at all anyway.
I think there is certain scope. I'm not talking about changing the law, but for instance, say in divorce, if you have two individual Muslims, through the normal divorce proceedings, a judge may order them or recommend mediation. Now, if both parties are Muslims, what's wrong in the judge saying, okay, go to a Muslim mediator, if both communities would then more likely accept that decision of that Muslim mediator rather than a judge's decision or another mediator's decision?
There's nothing wrong with that, actually.
But that happens in a sense, doesn't it? You can have it.
You don't need to change the law to do that, but you have the situation, what if one of those Muslims doesn't want to abide by Sharia law and wants to abide by our law? What if that happens?
Well, no, if the option's there and both parties decide to take it, then should that be not be open to them?
I'm not an expert at this, but my understanding is that a Muslim couple can use Sharia divorce if they both choose to, but a judge in a civil court in Britain won't impose that settlement on one or other if they're unwilling to accept it. In other words, it's a negotiation like you might negotiate with a mediator, isn't that right?
That's my understanding
too. The woman in green there, or turquoise, I should say.
Thank you. Does this mean that Roman Catholic Church law, for example, should be taken on board in the UK? For instance, on abortion, the Church is teaching on abortion. Should that be taken on board if Sharia law is to be included?
Would that be a logical consequence? Chris Grayling?
Well, I don't think any individual tenet of a particular church or religious faith should be applied universally across the whole of the legal system for one small group in our society. So, no, the same applies to that situation as it applies to the situation we're discussing.
But the word law is a bit confusing here, because the word law sometimes is used in a religious sense and sometimes in terms of the law of the land. Religious law might mean the Ten Commandments, but nobody's suggesting that coveting your neighbour's wife ought to become a criminal offence. So let's separate the personal, the ethical, moral guidance that people choose from different places with what is the universal law of the land.
Okay, let's go on to another question. Oh, just that thing about, just to clarify about stamp duty, in case you're confused listening to this, is because if you want to avoid usury, you can turn round the process of buying a house and you don't get double stamp duty. That's what the change for people who do that, who are Muslim who do that, get that concession, otherwise they'd pay twice. Paul Carey, please.
Like the rest of us, shouldn't members of Parliament be able to be bugged if there is a perceived threat to our national security?
Julia Goldsworthy.
Well, I think MPs should be treated like everyone else, but I do also think that when constituents go to see their MP, then they should be protected in knowing that that's not going to enter the public domain. I think there should be that privileged relationship between an MP and his or her constituent. But I think, if this is referring back to the case of Sadiq Khan, my concern is that we don't actually even know what the circumstances